Hello everyone, my name is Temperley, Iain Temperley, and welcome to the Body Count, where we calculate the deaths, demises and kills of various action and thriller films. And for today's episode we are looking at Goldfinger. In my opinion, the best James Bond film ever.
The first in the series to be released after Fleming's death, and the only Connery entry not to feature Spectre, Goldfinger was the film that established the franchise's own identity. Whereas Dr. No was a Fu Manchu mystery and From Russia with Lava Cold War thriller, new director Guy Hamilton introduced us to the blueprint for future Bond movies. High-tech gadgets, ill-fated ladies, gimmicked henchmen, and tongue-in-cheek humour. Throw in some multiple iconic moments and you've got Bond at his finest.
I'm not done praising this film just yet, but we're here to count some bodies, so let's get to it.
The film opens outside a heroin plant in Central America, where Duckman James Bond is on the scene. He knocks out a guard and then plants explosive on some barrels of nitro. He sets the detonator before, being the cool cat that he is, changes into a sweet white dinner jacket, complete with a carnation. He enters a nearby club where he catches the eye of the dancer Benita.
Nadia Rauschen had got the role after impressing producers with her appearance in From Russia with Love as Karen Bay's mistress.
The plant blows up and BB engage in some lip locking, but it looks like Benita's got something in her eye. 007 throws the appropriately named thug into a bathtub before tossing an electric lamp in with him.
Shocking.
Particularly for stuntman Alf Joint after a hot coil wrapped around his leg and severely burnt it.
We are gifted with musical video-esque opening titles featuring the golden body of glamour model Margaret Nolan and the quintessential Bond title song superbly performed by Shirley Bassey. We then head to Miami with Felix Leiter, no longer played by Jack Lord.
Lord wanted to raise an equal billing with Connery, which, let's face it, wasn't going to happen, so they replaced him with Cease Linder, who, due to being Polish-born Canadian, is the only non-American to play the character.
He's here to relay orders from M for Bond to observe Auric Goldfinger, played by Baron Bombburst himself, Gert Frobe.
Frobe couldn't actually speak a word of English, by the way, so would learn his lines phonetically, and then most of them would be dubbed over later by another actor named Michael Collins.
James discovers Goldfinger's been cheating at gin rummy, so he forces him to lose a lot of money or else he'll tell the local police. Goldie's not exactly happy about that. James later gets intimate with Mr. G's employee Jill Masterson when he's knocked out by a shadowy figure. He wakes to discover a pretty harrowing sight.
Now, the official cause of death is skin suffocation, which actually isn't possible since we don't breathe through the pores in our skin. However, you can die of heat stroke if you wear paint for too long. That being said, this is still a very effective and striking death, which would pretty much become the defining image people associate with this motion picture.
Not to mention make Shirley Eaton one of the most photographed actresses in the world.
It would also kickstart the formula of Bond's girlfriends being a bit expendable.
M chews Bond out for overstepping his orders before inviting him to dine with Colonel Smithers from the Bank of England. Smithers believes Goldfinger has been illegally smuggling gold and wants MI6 to find out how. He also offers some Nazi gold as bait.
Side note, Frobe was actually part of the Nazi party for about 8 years, but don't hold that against him. He even hid a couple of Jews from them.
007 visits Major Boothroyd, now known as Q, who wants to show him a particular car named the Aston Martin DB5.
It's hard to imagine any other vehicle being more synonymous with the James Bond franchise than this one. In fact, sales of the Aston Martin rose a mighty 50% after this appearance.
This particular model comes with bulletproof windows, revolving number plates, radar to track a couple of homing devices, defense mechanisms, and an ejector seat.
Ejector seat? You're joking.
I never joke about my work, 007.
Guy Hamilton gave Desmond Llewellyn more room to play about with the character this time, and as a result, this confrontational relationship with Bond would be a big part of the fact why he got to play the role for 38 years and 17 films.
Bond next meets Goldfinger at a golf course, where we're introduced to his Korean manservant, Oddjob.
Born in Hawaii, Harold Sakato was a professional wrestler who competed under the name Tosh Toga, which is where Hamilton first noticed him. He also won a silver medal at the 1946 Olympics in weightlifting.
They play around for the gold bar, and of course, Oric cheats, so James responds by switching his ball to win the match. Later, Bond plants the homing device into Mr. G's Rolls-Royce Phantom 3, before the big man warns him not to get too ahead of himself. The villains are tracked to Switzerland, where James runs into a girl who's not a great driver and an even worse shot. That night he breaks into Oric Enterprises, where he learns that the gold was being smuggled in the framework of the Rolls-Royce. We also see Goldie talking to Burt Kwok's Mr. Ling about something called Operation Grand Slam. Bond also bumps into the lady driver, who is revealed to be Tilly Masterson, out to avenge her sister's murder. An alarm was triggered though, so the duo make a getaway, where an oil slick sends some of their pursuers to a fiery death. Another guy goes down not that long after. Unfortunately, Tilly's not fast enough to escape execution by Bowler Hat.
Tanya Millet's career was about as short as this appearance, but it does make this the first Bond film to have multiple female victims.
Bond is captured, but is able to eject the front seat driver.
I'm not going to put him on the count, however, because I don't think he'd die from that height.
Freedom is short-lived, however, as he crashes the Aston into a wall after being distracted by a mirror. 007 wakes up with Goldfinger wanting to test out his industrial laser.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
This effect was achieved by getting someone to cut through the bottom using a blowtorch up to a certain mark, and then the laser will be put in through optics later.
Before we get a permanent solution to Bond's sexual appetite, he drops the Grand Slam name to suggest that MI6 know Mr. G's plan, and keeping him alive will get them off Oric's back. This does the job as the laser's turned off and James is tranked. He wakes up to the angelic sight of Goldie's personal pilot.
My name is Pussy Galore.
That's a name to digest. At 39, the terrific Honor Blackman is the second oldest actress to play a Bond girl. Also,
You can turn off the charm. I'm immune.
yes, she's supposed to be a lesbian, though given the time period is obviously a bit more toned down than it was in the novel.
Fortunately, Bond still has the mini homing device on him. Therefore, Felix knows that he's landed in America. We also get our first look at Pussy's flying circus of female pilots. Bond arrives in Goldfinger's stud farm in Kentucky, where he's led into his personal cell. Meanwhile, using a map and a nifty model, Goldfinger explains Operation Grand Slam to some American mafioso. Using equipment and investments they have contributed, such as a special nerve gas that knocks people out for 24 hours, they'll break into Fort Knox and steal all the gold bullion. But James has escaped his cell and overheard the whole scheme, so writes a note to the CIA. Therefore, when Mr. Solo refuses Mr. G's proposal, he slips the Homer and note into his pocket before he departs. Oh, turns out Goldie was fibbing about the gas, as his man Kish demonstrates by using it to exterminate all the gangsters. Also, Oddjob gets himself a solo kill before crushing the Lincoln Continental and destroying the tracker, leaving the CIA unaware of the impending attack. Bond tells Goldfinger that stealing all the bullion from Fort Knox would take far too long. However, he realises that the real plan is actually to detonate an atomic device from the Chinese in the vault, thus irradiating the gold for the next 58 years. Meanwhile, Oric's own gold supply would majorly increase in value. Later in the barn, James and Pussy engage in some judo, which he wins with a smoochin' takedown.
That's right, Bond's powers are so great he turned a lesbian.
Operation Grand Slam is underway as the flying circus successfully spread the gas across the nearby area, even affecting poor Leiter.
Unfortunately, I don't need to count any bodies just yet.
Unopposed, the bad guys blow up the fence and cut through the doors. The device is armed, alerting Felix and his boys.
It's later revealed that Miss Galore had warned the CIA and switched the nerve gas with a harmless substance.
They enter the vault in which Bond is handcuffed to the device as the soldiers make their move.
Again, you've got to give credit to production designer Ken Adam, whose only bit of direction from producer Broccoli for the set was to create a cathedral of gold, which he certainly has achieved. We are now on to our obligatory third act shootout, which means a lot of people are going to die. Now, I'm only going to be counting people I see definitively getting shot and stabbed and pretty much any body lying around. However, I'm not including these two because it looks more like they're being taken down rather than actually killed, as well as this guy because we just don't see clearly what happens to him.
Mr. G disguises himself as a general, shooting Mr. Ling with his golden revolver.
Because gold.
And then gunning down 5 soldiers in the back to join 11 of G's men on the count. Trapped in the vault, Kish goes to disarm the device, but company man Oddjob instead propels him to early retirement, providing Bond with the keys to unlock his cuffs. Oddjob goes for the hat trick, but succeeds only in cutting a cable. James's attempts to fight back don't go so well. Outside, it's not going so well for the bad guys, who terminate another 5 soldiers but lose 13 of their own men. Bond continues to struggle with the Korean powerhouse and tries unsuccessfully to give him a taste of his own medicine. It does provide an opportunity though for him to use the cut cable and create another shocking end for our villain. The army are able to open the vault and eliminate 12 remaining henchmen, before disarming the weapon with convenient seconds to spare. Bond is on the plane to the President, but Goldfinger thinks Cuba sounds nicer. An opening allows 007 to struggle for the gun, shooting out a window which Goldie is promptly sucked through. Luckily, the duo are able to jump out just before the plane crashes and kills this guy. The film ends with James and Pussy delaying their rescue, and the promise that Bond will return in Thunderball.
Operation Grand Slam may have been a bust, but did this film make bank when it came to the number of bodies? Let's head over to the breakdown. In total, 72 people die in Goldfinger, which means it does indeed hold the gold medal for the highest body count on the show so far. And with a runtime of 105 minutes, means that there was a death on average every 1.46 minutes.
The Magnum bullet will be awarded to poor Jill. Sure, it's not possible, but it still remains an iconic image of Bond's cinematic impact. For the damp squib, as mentioned in my previous video, it's going to get tiresome if I award it to some random body or nameless dude getting gunned down, so I'll give it to Mr. Ling, since at least they had a compact solution to get rid of Solo's body.
Well, that does it for this episode of The Body Count. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.